What's going on, everybody? A very happy Monday. Thank you so much for joining us. Yes, we are headed into 2025. That's right. Thanks for being here, man. And besides the FM AM dial, I'm sure you might be watching on the Occupy Democrats Network, the Washington Press Network, many other platforms, including my YouTube page at PTL Radio Show. So thank you again for being here. Greatly appreciate it. And we have a lot to get to and a lot to go over today. Coming up here in just a few, in just a few minutes, we're going to be joined by former presidential candidate Joe Walsh. This is why you should never have peanuts before going on the air. I'm experiencing it right now. Former presidential candidate Joe Walsh is going to be joining us here in just a few moments. Talk to him about more of the Maga infighting, and of course, the great role model himself for so many young men out there, losing Jimmy Carter at the age of 100. And there's a lot to get to with Jimmy Carter and a lot to talk about with him. Obviously, he served the country as a graduate, work in nuclear physics. Married for 77 years, an entrepreneur, Nobel Peace Prize winner, author of 30 books, Habitat for Humanity volunteer, and Sunday school teacher as well. So thoughts and prayers, go out to Jimmy Carter's family, friends. I had the opportunity to meet Jimmy Carter about 20 years ago. It was my first job in radio. I was working at a local radio station in New London, Connecticut called WSUB, and I had the opportunity to ask Jimmy Carter multiple questions. He was speaking at the Coast Guard there. Certainly an honor to meet him. I shook his hand. He asked me a few questions about what it was like living in Connecticut, and I'll never forget that, and I never have, and I never will. Wonderful man, Jimmy Carter, passing away at the age of 100. So to talk to us about this, and boy, there's a lot of other stuff to talk about as well. There's no question about it. My friend and former presidential candidate, former congressman out of Chicago. It's a pleasure having Joe Walsh joining us right now on the show. Joe, a pleasure as always, my friend. How are you?
Brian, man, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy New Year, all that good stuff. And thank you for talking about former President Jimmy Carter. There's always so much crap to talk about every single day on your show, but it's important to devote time to someone like this who served this country.
Yeah, absolutely. And I forgot to mention, coming up at the bottom of the hour, Dr. Larry Cook is going to be joining us, a nationally recognized presidential historian, also a very close friend to Jimmy Carter. And cool. I wanted to get your thoughts on this, Joe, because you had tweeted out a decent man died yesterday, which you're absolutely right. And a horrible man will become president in a few weeks. But without talking about Donald Trump, what do you remember about Jimmy Carter growing up? And did he influence you in any way with your political career?
So and I'm older than you, Brian. I'm old. I'm 94. So I remember him vividly. I kind of came of age politically with Carter. As you know, I was a big Reagan kid. I went off to high school and then college when Reagan got elected. I always, two things about Carter. Even at a young age, I was a political nerd. So I always opposed him on most policy. But I loved the fact that he was just a simple man of the people. I loved that. And I also loved the fact that he wasn't a typical polished politician. I loved that. And then, obviously, I was happy when Reagan won. But then you look at the 43 years of what Carter did. And even though, Brian, I mean, I vehemently disagree with Carter's stance on Israel. But everybody will say, what a decent man. Mm-hmm. What a servant. I mean, I can't not mention Trump. He's the antithesis of what Trump did. This is the very definition of a person, a man, who dedicated his life to this country. When you look at everything he did, he was a servant. He always put his country first, things that Donald Trump is just utterly incapable of.
I completely agree with you. Again, if you're just joining us, former presidential candidate Joe Walsh joining us. So certainly we honor Jimmy Carter. We honor his life, the wonderful man. And I listed just some of the accomplishments he's had in his life. There's a long list of them, and a wonderful man. And he will sorely be missed. And thoughts and prayers go out to his family. You know, Joe, when you look at the MAGA infighting that has been taking place since Vivek Ramaswamy made his comments, and there was a lot of criticism to go around for Elon Musk. And then all of a sudden yesterday, Donald Trump sides with Elon Musk. And it seems like so much of that has gone away. Can you comment about that, Joe?
Can we say it one more time from the cheap streets, from the cheap seats? My former political party is a cult, period. First off, again, nobody should feel sorry for the crap that the incoming that Elon and Vivek Ramaswamy have been getting from the intolerant nationalistic Republican Party base, because people like Elon and Vivek, just like Trump, have fed these people red meat to help make them intolerant over the last few years. So I love the fact that the base went after Elon and Vivek. Now, the base is wrong. Elon and Vivek are right on immigration. This is a country of immigrants. We should welcome folks from all over the world who want to come here. It is interesting, though, Brian, to your point that Trump sided with Musk. It's not surprising, because Trump will just feed his base even more lies and disinformation, and he knows he has them in his pocket.
There's no question about that. And that goes to my next question, which is, do you think that it'll continue with Vivek Ramaswamy? It seems like many of these MAGA supporters are giving Elon a little bit of a break here. And then Elon goes on social media saying, hey, can we all just be nice? You know, he puts out a tweet like that. Don't you find it interesting, Joe, that they talk about freedom of speech, but then when it affects somebody like Elon Musk and they're going after him, all of a sudden it's not freedom of speech anymore?
I don't know what you find. What I find most nauseating and sickening about a guy like Elon Musk, Brian, is just how dishonest he is. Like, he's just fundamentally a dishonest person. And I think Vivek is the same way. These are people who say things that they know Trump supporters want to hear. I couldn't tell you at all what Vivek Ramaswamy's core is. I couldn't tell you what Elon Musk's core is. And they just constantly feed disinformation to Trump's voters. But again, that's what Trump has done over the years. That's what Tucker Carlson does over the years. All of these supposedly right-wing thought leaders lie to their audience every single day. And it just, again, clearly they have no respect for who these people are.
What do you think happens from here? Do you believe this was a situation, I guess my first question, where Elon went to Trump months ago and knew that this was going to happen, and it was kind of like, you scratch my back, I scratch yours? Or do you think this was a situation where just in the last week this happened? I think this was a conversation that happened months back, and Trump knew this was going to happen.
I think there's no doubt that Elon Musk, before he publicly came out full square for Trump during the campaign and opened up his checkbook to the tune of $300 million some dollars, he had a conversation with Trump, and he said, Donald, these are the 2 or 3 most important issues to me. I'm gonna get you elected, but I need you to be there for me when you get elected on these issues, and this H-1B visa issue is one of them. So yeah, I agree with you, Brian. This was set in stone a while ago, but again, it doesn't matter, because Trump then on the campaign trail kept talking about keeping all these immigrants out of here. Yeah. So again, both sides of his mouth.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Joe, I hope you have a wonderful holiday to you and your family. Have a great New Year's, my friend. Would you have any plans? You're in New York, right? You have any plans for New Year's?
I am going to hang with my wife and my dogs. That's it. And you can use your imagination, Brian, what I'm going to do.
Well, you know what?
God bless.
I was just going to say, I hope you have a great time with your beautiful wife and your dog.
Hey, Brian, can I say one more thing?
Absolutely.
As we end 2024, I effing love your show. I love what you do every day. I love that you speak your truth, and keep doing it, my brother, in 2025.
Always means the world to me when you say that, Joe. And I love you too, brother. Have a great holiday for you and your family, man. And we'll talk soon. Take care.
You too, man. Thanks.
Love that man. I've had him on for years, and every single time he comes on, it keeps getting better and better. I love Joe Walsh. He's the best. I hope he runs for office again. I doubt he will, but I've always hoped he would run again. I think he's a really good man. Very intelligent, very well spoken, tells it like it is. Wasn't always on the right side of history. He'll be the first one to admit that. But Joe Walsh is the best. And we are going to have a presidential historian and a longtime friend to Jimmy Carter. His name is Dr. Larry Cook, and he's going to be joining us at the bottom of the hour. And then we'll take some phone calls a little bit later on in the program. But I want to give you a sense of how the right is going after Jimmy Carter. Not everybody, right? There are a lot of people on the right that are paying tribute to Jimmy Carter and putting politics aside, and I respect that. I think that's a great thing, right? And again, just to give you a rundown on Jimmy Carter and what he's accomplished in his life, the role model that he was, served his country, a graduate work in nuclear physics, married for 77 years, an entrepreneur, Nobel Peace Prize winner, and author of over 30 books, Habitat for Humanity volunteer, a Sunday school teacher. I mean, this man accomplished so much in his life, and I have so much admiration for him. It's unbelievable. But there are people on the far right that take the opportunity to go after the left. And there's a guy by the name of Vince Langman who is at least in my eyes, a white supremacist Maga moron, for lack of a better term. And he goes on social media, and sadly, he has a very large platform. And he goes on social media, and he says, never forget how Jimmy Carter's family and the Harris campaign peddled a lie that Jimmy Carter's dying wish was to vote for Kamala Harris while he was literally on death's doorstep. You don't get more evil than that. Now, to me, I don't know, that's just my personal opinion. To me, that's taking advantage of what is, and not even really taking advantage, just bringing up lies about what is a really horrible, a horrible situation where somebody, somebody had just lost their life, and making it horrible by going after that man's family. This guy has no idea the private conversations that Jimmy Carter had with he and his family. He has no idea. But yet he takes to social media and he starts saying the family carted him out as if it was against Jimmy Carter's wishes. These mega morons have no idea what they're talking about. Here's somebody else on social media, a right-wing hack, who said this is how sick and twisted the DNC is. They basically brought out Jimmy Carter on his deathbed to make a spectacle. Don't forget what they did with Dianne Feinstein. Not to mention how they committed a soft coup in 2020 and placed a puppet dementia patient as president while hiding him in the basement for 4 years. Now, obviously, this is another idiot with no credibility, right? That's obvious. So it's pretty sick that a former president loses his life, a man who was a good man, regardless of what you thought about him, regardless of what type of president you think he was or whether you liked his policies or not. These people make a claim that is completely unfounded, that somehow Jimmy Carter's family carted him out there on his deathbed without him knowing, to be used as a spectacle with no evidence to back any of that up. None, zero. The man was almost 100 years old. Sure, he was on his way out the door, but none of these MAGA morons have any idea what they're talking about, and they want to attack the Democrats, and they want to attack Jimmy Carter's family. This is who they are. So we will revisit this, and we'll be talking at the bottom of the hour with the guy by the name of Dr. Larry Cook, who is a nationally recognized presidential historian, an award-winning author and a political commentator, and he is a lifelong friend for most of his life, a lifelong friend, I guess you could say, to Jimmy Carter. So we will be talking about that with him coming up at the bottom of the hour. I also want to share some breaking news with you. A federal appeals court in New York has upheld a jury's verdict against President-elect Donald Trump, confirming his liability for the sexual abuse of E. Jean Carroll in the 1990s. The court also maintained the $5 million awarded to Carroll for defamation and sexual abuse. So I wanted to share that with you as well. So I do find it interesting that a lot of these MAGA Republicans, Republicans in general, want to talk about immigration and how you don't want people from India coming here and getting these visas and all this other stuff. And recently, yesterday, Donald Trump sided with Elon Musk. But I want to play some audio for you because this is what Donald Trump had to say back in 2020 when he talks about these H-1B regulations, and it is clearly the opposite of what he's saying now. Have a listen to this.
What to do and how to do it. It doesn't work that way. As we speak, we're finalizing H-1B regulations so that no American worker is replaced ever again. H-1Bs should be used for top, highly paid talent to create American jobs, not as inexpensive labor program to destroy American jobs.
That is exactly what Donald Trump said back in 2020. It is the opposite of what he is saying now. Why? Why is Donald Trump saying the opposite now? Well, I'll tell you why, because there's a guy by the name of Elon Musk that's gotten involved, and Elon Musk has donated hundreds of millions of dollars to Donald Trump's campaign, and one I think could make the argument that Donald Trump would not have won, maybe perhaps, without Elon Musk. So, Donald Trump has just changed his tune. I'm sure he hasn't changed his opinions on this, but the only reason why he's doing so is because of Elon Musk. And the reason why Elon Musk is so in favor of these visas is so that he could take advantage of workers. Slave work, as I say. Why do I say it that way? Because he damn well knows, so does Vivek Ramaswamy and others in the tech world, they damn well know that somebody comes in here from another country on one of these visas and they get fired. Let's just say they bring their family out here and they're on this work visa and they lose their job and they get fired for whatever reason, they get deported and they have to go back to their country with their families. So you have a stronghold on these people. God forbid they ask for a raise or they file a complaint. They'd be afraid of losing their job. This is exactly why Elon Musk is in favor of this. This is exactly why Vivek Ramaswamy is in favor of this. And my question is this: why does anybody take anything Vivek Ramaswamy says with any bit of credibility at all? Why? Makes absolutely and positively no sense to me. Zero. So now, Elon Musk is going to get his way. And now, the attacks on Vivek Ramaswamy, by the way, have continued. The attacks have continued. So we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we are going to be joined by Dr. Larry Cook. He is a nationally recognized presidential historian, an award-winning author and a political commentator, and decade-long friend to former President Jimmy Carter. We are going to be talking about that. So we'll take a quick break. We'll be back right after this. You are listening to Pushing the Limits right here on KSHP.
Hey, everybody. Are you struggling to find a pizza place that reminds you of Brooklyn? That true blue New York-style pie? Well, worry no more. Stallone's Italian Eatery Pizza is a knockout. We're located at 467 East Silverado Ranch Boulevard, just off of Premium Road, half a mile east of South Point Casino, just minutes from the Las Vegas Strip. Come by and grab a slice of pie. Plus, check out our Brooklyn-inspired Italian cuisine. Our sandwiches are super. Hero, that is. Because why be a sub when you can be a hero? Stallone's Italian Eatery is here to serve you phenomenal food, Vegas. Forget about it.
Who would have thought there'd be so many kids playing ice hockey in the desert? Jake Helps Hockey Foundation and the Las Vegas Ice Warriors, founded by Gina Yusufzai 8 years ago, made it possible for families who can't afford the equipment and fees. Donate today at www.hockeyforkids.org and help us continue making a difference. Join us in supporting Jake Helps Hockey Foundation and the Las Vegas Ice Warriors, where every kid gets a shot at the starting line. Just a reminder, our website is www.hockeyforkids.org.
Have you ever dreamed of having your own radio show or a podcast, but just didn't think it was possible? Well, dreams can come true. Radio U. Radio U is a 5-day course that'll teach you how to acquire your dream show. We'll teach you how to host, how to write commercial, how to interview, how to market, how to write a contract, and most importantly, how to monetize your dream radio show. You'll learn from some of the best in the business with over 75 years in broadcast experience. You'll learn from people like me. And the best part, every single student will be live on the radio as part of the class. Plus, one student from each class will get their very own radio show. You'll be live on the air right here in Las Vegas. Radio U. The 5-day course is being offered at $699. For more information, give Radio U a call. 702-763-5024. That's 702-763-5020.
You're listening to the boss of the big ball. JP the Cat. Giving you that grease.
Saturday and Sunday from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. Pacific time for the live action on Vegas Scoreboard Express on KSHP 107.1 FM and AM 1400. Dive into the game day with my in-depth analysis, expert predictions, and winning plays from the sharpest minds in sports betting. It's more than just placing bets. It's about securing wins. Head over to jptheticket.com and be sure to tune in to KSHP this weekend from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. Pacific time to ride the winning wave with VSX. Tune in and get your money back from the sport book. All sports, no bull. Miss the live show? Subscribe to Vegas Scoreboard Express on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, TuneIn, and wherever you enjoy your favorite podcast and radio listening.
Get ready, football fans. The Los Angeles Rams are back, and they're hungrier than ever in the City of Angels, where stars shine bright. A new chapter unfolds on the gridiron. Buckle up, because the Rams are about to electrify the NFL. All Los Angeles Rams games can be heard right here on KSHP, AM 1400 and 107.1 FM. Los Angeles Rams football, sponsored by Steiner's Pub, a true Nevada-style pub.
All right, welcome back. It is Pushing the Limits on a Monday. Thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate you being a part of the show. Of course, we are on the Occupy Democrats Network, the Washington Press Network, and the FM Amdow KSHP. PushingTheLimits.live is the website where you can also subscribe to my YouTube page, which is at PTL Radio Show. Coming up here in just a few minutes, we've got Dr. Larry Cook that is going to be joining us, nationally recognized presidential historian. Talk a little bit about the life of Jimmy Carter. What an exceptional life that he has lived. So really looking forward to catching up with him and talking with him, and the Maga infighting continues. I mean, the incredible part of it is I was listening and joining some spaces over the weekend, and I don't know why, and I mentioned this and I alluded to this a little bit earlier, I don't know why so many people put so much credence in something that Vivek Ramaswamy says. His entire life has been dedicated to selling drugs, many of which never worked in the pharmaceutical companies. So I don't know why anyone takes anything seriously when it comes out of Vivek Ramaswamy's mouth. Now, that's just my personal opinion. I certainly don't, but I think if you're a bigot, if you're a racist in this country and you don't want brown people coming into this country, then you probably are offended with what Vivek Ramaswamy had to say. So we'll take some phone calls, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on in the program and get your thoughts on it. But Donald Trump siding with Elon Musk on this one, which, by the way, is not a surprise to me. It's not a surprise to me at all. All right. So getting back to the exceptional life of Jimmy Carter and the life that he lived, what an incredible man. And I said, what better person to talk about him than a nationally recognized presidential historian, an award-winning author and political commentator, and a very long-time friend of the former President Jimmy Carter. Joining us right now is Dr. Larry Cook. Dr. Cook, I really do appreciate you taking the time to join us, sir. How are you?
I'm great, Brian. How are you?
Doing good. I really appreciate you taking the opportunity to join us. I'm sure there's a lot of people that have been wanting to talk to you. What was your first reaction? I'm sure it was a lot of sadness, and I'm sorry, by the way, for the loss of your friend. Did you, I don't want to say assume, but did you see this coming, or a little surprise? Obviously, he's 100 years old.
Yeah, again, thank you for your kind words. I appreciate that. And yeah, of course. I mean, we were good friends for over 20 years, and so even though we knew this was coming at some point, we've been in hospice almost 2 years. We were, it's still you're never 100% ready for it when a good friend or family member passes away. And so, yeah, the first reaction, of course, was some sadness. But then we're comforted by the fact that we know that, he's with Rosalind now, and that's where he'd want to be. So, but yeah, like I said, the first reaction, sure, loss of a good friend.
Absolutely. No question about that. That makes sense to me. Do you recall the last conversation you had with President Carter that you can maybe share with us?
Yeah, the last real conversation I had with him was at Rosalind's birthday party in 2022, in August of 2022, and we had a big birthday party for her in Plains, and he was able to come out then, and that was one of his last public appearances, other than at her funeral. But we spoke then, and had a little conversation there at her party. I did see him at her funeral, but didn't get a chance to talk to him.
Right. Yeah. If you're just joining us again, Dr. Larry Cook, decades a friend to Jimmy Carter, who passed away at the age of 100. So I don't want to get into a political conversation, but I have criticized some who have gone after Jimmy Carter's family, which I think is beyond, inappropriate, Doctor. If you recall, there was a moment months back before the election where the family said Jimmy Carter's wishes is he wanted to vote one last time, right? And he wanted to vote for Kamala Harris, which he did. And then there was video of him at a park with his family in a bed. The man's 100 years old, right? He's not going to look like a spring chicken, right? That's obvious. But yet there are people that took the opportunity yesterday, Doctor, which frustrates me. I'm sure it frustrates you as well, to go after his family, saying that they used him as a spectacle, which I don't know the family anywhere near as well as you do, but I believe that's the last thing Jimmy Carter's family would do. Can you speak to that at all?
Oh, absolutely. That would be the last thing that they would do. That using him for anything would be nonsense. So yeah, he's a great man. He lived his life with decency, as President Biden said yesterday. And his whole family, I know many of them. I don't know all of his family members, but some of them I consider very good friends, and they all, they're all a chip off the old block. I mean, they're all decent people, really great people who do a lot for anybody around them, and do a lot to help his legacy as well. And so, that I think the time you're referring to that was at his 100th birthday, when they wheeled him out to watch the flyover, and that was something that was historic and very important, and I'm sure he enjoyed seeing that tribute to him from the Navy.
No question. And as I've said on the air, I've said on social media, I had the opportunity to meet him over 20 years ago, and I'll never forget it for the rest of my life. Do you have any type of understanding of who you think Jimmy Carter would want to speak at his funeral? And do you have any inclination of who that might be?
I don't. The only thing that I know, we have not received any details at this point ourselves. So I don't know. I know it's been in the news that President Biden had said that President Carter had asked him to do the eulogy. But I have not heard anything official. that.
You know, Doctor, I remember John McCain's funeral. If you recall, George W. Bush and the Obama family. It was one of the nice pleasantries where you saw two former presidents and their families sitting next to one another, getting along with one another, showing class, right? Because that's who John McCain was. He was a man, at least in my opinion, of dignity and class, and he was a hero, like a Jimmy Carter in that aspect. And again, you knew Jimmy Carter so well. Do you feel like that's the way Jimmy Carter would want it to be? You'd want Republicans and Democrats there, you know, exchanging pleasantries and leaving politics aside. Is that a fair characterization?
Oh yeah, I think that's a fair statement there. I'm sure he would want that. You know, he attended every inauguration from his own all the way up until he couldn't physically do it anymore, which would have been the 2020 inauguration that he was the first one he had not been at since his own, and then he attended every single one, whether it was Republican or Democrat being sworn into office. So I think that's the proof right there that absolutely he would want that. As I mentioned, we were at Rosalind's funeral when she passed away in November of 2023, and we had every first lady there at that funeral, and also President Clinton and President Biden, and of course President Carter was there at that funeral.
Yeah, that's the way it should be, no doubt about it. You know, I went through the list of just some of Jimmy Carter's accomplishments, and I laugh because it's like, I'm not sure there's anybody else in the world that has been able to accomplish what he has, besides just being the president and the entrepreneur. And how about married for 77 years, serving the country, graduate work in nuclear physics. I mentioned the Nobel Peace Prize, right? An author of over 30 books. I don't know how he had the time to do that. Habitat for Humanity volunteer, Sunday school teacher. I mean, I'm sure there's probably a lot we could add to that. But I laugh at that and I say, boy, I don't think I know anybody that's accomplished more in their life than Jimmy Carter did.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can add a couple things to that. He was a master woodworker. He had a woodworking shop in his home, in his garage in Plains, and he's made, major pieces of furniture. I'm fortunate enough to have a couple of things that he made there in his workshop. He was a very good artist, had a folk art quality to his art, done a lot of painting. As you mentioned, he's an author, but not just an author, but also a novelist and a poet. With that, he's an avid fisherman. Fly fishing was a very big part of his life, and Rosalind's. And he was a master of anything that he attempted, and he was always up for attempting something new.
Wow. Unbelievable. I didn't even know some of that. That's incredible. So Dr. Cook, you knew him, much better than 99.9% of the world. And obviously I'm an outsider looking in, and I can read off all of his accomplishments, and I love hearing stories about him. But what can you share with people that people didn't get to see or hear from Jimmy Carter in private, in your conversations with him and in spending time with him over the years? How do you think he should be remembered? And what are some of the things that you remember that maybe the general public might have not been able to see?
Well, the first thing I would like to say to that is he was a genuine person. He and Rosalind, you almost can't talk about one without talking about the other, because they, as you mentioned, their long marriage and their partnership with truly everything that they did in life, from the time that they got married when she was a Navy wife. I mean, she was, essentially in the Navy with him, being a Navy wife, and right up through the years. And so I guess I'd like to get across to people that he was very genuine. I mean, when we would get together over the 20 years, we've been together countless times. And, the first thing that when we get together, he'd want to know how things were going. He'd want to know how my history work was going. He'd want to know how my parents are, and how my wife's parents were doing. And it was, people assumed that when we got together, we talked about politics. We rarely talked anything political. He would, would be just like two friends talking, how's your mom? How's your dad? That type of thing. He met my parents several times. So he was a genuine person, and everyone that he met, whether it was a friend like myself, or whether somebody that he was meeting for the very first time, he was interested in them as a person. He didn't make it all about himself in any form. He would be the first to ask you, how you were doing, no matter what your profession was. And he'd be interested in it. I think the way that he would like to be remembered the most would be for his humanitarian work. He's very proud of that. And I was talking to people earlier today about that, and I said, when they were saying that his humanitarian work kind of overshadowed his presidency somewhat, and that's true. I think his presidency is underrated personally. He did a lot of great things as president. In my opinion, he was a very good president. And some things didn't work out the way he would have liked them to work out. But he certainly gave it his all. But what you got to think of is when people say that about his post-presidency, it's not a knock on his presidency. It's just that he had a long post-presidency. I mean, the longest of any president. One of my favorite times with him is when I got together with him right after he had broken Herbert Hoover's record of being the longest out of the White House. And he was so proud of it. He couldn't wait to tell me about that. He had that famous grin, and he told me, I just broke Herbert Hoover's record. And but he left the White House at 53 years old. He lived to be 100. He had almost half of his life outside of the White House, and he had such did so many things there that, of course, that's going to be a big part of his legacy.
Yeah. Dr. Cook, I mean, obviously he had to have taken care of himself. I mean, he lives to 100. Can you speak to that? I mean, I would imagine this is a man who probably ate pretty healthy and he exercised regularly.
Yeah, you're right on both of those things. They were at our house several times for lunches or dinners, or we ate with them several times. And very, very healthy. They really like to eat fish a lot. Going back to being an avid fisherman, he would eat a lot of the fish that they caught. Exercise regularly. I mean, you can see all kinds of photos of him as president jogging with the Secret Service with him. When he was in planes, he and Rosalind were known to be out riding their bike a lot. He actually had a scooter that it wasn't no motor on it. It was a manual scooter that he would go down the road in planes with that. They love to walk. I mean, one time, and they were at our house here in northeastern Pennsylvania, and we were holding an event for them a couple of blocks up the road that evening. And after we got done with lunch, he wanted to walk up to the event and not ride up with the Secret Service. He wanted to walk up. So yeah, he lived a very healthy lifestyle, both physically and spiritually.
So cool, and married for 77 years. It's just unbelievable. Again, without getting too much into the political spectrum, because that's not why I wanted you to come on, of course, but did he ever speak to you about divisiveness just in general? Because it seemed to me Jimmy Carter was the guy who was always willing to reach across the aisle and speak to somebody that disagreed with him. He showed respect for everybody. Did he ever speak to you at all about just the last decade even of, God, it just seems like we're so much more divided now, and you have Republicans and Democrats going at it with one another and bills struggle to pass. Did he ever talk to you about that? Because I would imagine he's the kind of guy that never wanted it to be like this.
Yeah, we never really talked a lot of politics, and he never said anything divisive to me at all. I'll share a couple things with you, though. I mean, he was very good friends with Gerald Ford. And one time we were together and in my office, I'm a collector of presidential memorabilia, and he saw a signed picture that I had of Gerald Ford, and he looked at the picture for a few seconds and he said, "Wow, I really miss him." And he went on to tell me that they were very good friends. And he told me a story. He said one day, he said, "I'll tell you something you may not know about Gerald Ford." And I said, "Okay." And he said, one day I received a call from him, and he said, "Jimmy, I have a favor to ask you." And Jimmy said, "Sure, Jerry, anything." And he said, "Well, I want to ask you to do my eulogy." And President Carter said he was kind of taken aback by that question. And he said, "I finally came up with a response." And I said to him, "Well, Jerry, if you promise to do my eulogy, I'll promise to do yours." And so he was very good friends with him. I mentioned the Herbert Hoover thing. Harry Truman was his favorite president of his lifetime. In fact, For the last several years, my wife and I have given him a piece of Harry Truman memorabilia for his birthday for the last several years. But he never got into anything divisive. I mean, we spoke about the 2016 elections when President Trump won for the first time, and as a matter of fact, we had lunch about 2 days after the election, and he just said to me, he said, I called President-elect Trump and congratulated him and offered any help or advice in the future. And he said, I called Hillary and gave her my condolences. So, so a few little tidbits there, but we never really talked politics a whole lot.
Interesting. And he never really brought up anything negative about what's been going on over the course of the last 7 or 8 years, not even January 6th or anything of that nature, huh?
He did not to me. No,
that's the man he was, right? He stayed out of that stuff. He, picking up the phone and calling Donald Trump. Isn't that the kind of man that Jimmy Carter was? It didn't matter whether he disagreed with policy or even personal. As a former president, he showed dignity, right? He showed dignity and character and did what you are supposed to do as a former president. And that is congratulate the incoming president, whether you agree with him or not. Right, Doctor?
Yes. That's Jimmy Carter.
So incredible. Yeah. That's who he is. Now, I have to ask you this, since you're memorabilia presidential historian. Can you tell us I'm just curious, some of the stuff you have from like a Jimmy Carter, some of the memorabilia that you might have from a Jimmy Carter? Is there any way you can you can share that with us, if that's okay?
Yeah, I'd be glad to. I got some very special pieces. Of course, I collect memorabilia on all of the presidents, and we have one of the most extensive collections in the country. But as far as the Carter memorabilia, some things are very special to me. Of course, I have a wooden pitchfork that he made, a full-size pitchfork made out of hickory that he made in his workshop. And he told me the story of it, that a tree had fallen on their property. This was several years ago. And he and Rosalind actually drug part of the tree up to his workshop, and he made various things from it. And one of them was the pitchfork that we have. Probably the most, my most favorite piece in my collection was they came to our house in 2013, shortly after President Obama's inauguration. And they carried in this very official-looking bag. It had the presidential seal on it. And he and Rosalind said, "We have a gift for you and Diane." And so we took the bag and we opened it up, and it was their leather-bound copy of their program that they had at Obama's inauguration.
Wow!
And they wanted us to have it for our collection. And as fate would have it, I got to meet President Obama shortly after that. And I took the program with me and explained to President Obama that President Carter was a good friend and he had given this to me. And so President Obama signed it for me, and then President Carter also signed it. So that's a really cherished treasure in our collection that we have.
Wow, that's priceless. That's something you keep for the rest of your life, and
Yes.
one of a kind, right, to say the least.
Yes.
Well, Dr. Cook, let me just say again, I'm sorry for the loss of your friend. I truly am. And to all of his friends and family, what a wonderful man and what a wonderful life he lived. And I use the term role model, not just for being a loving husband, of course, and father. And I know that his son ran for office here in the state of Nevada at one point. And I have a lot of Republican friends, including the former Republican chair, Amy Tarkanian, that actually had met Jimmy Carter and met his son, and she had nothing but nice things to say about them. And I think that really speaks volumes, like a John McCain. And I make those comparisons to Jimmy Carter in this aspect, that the utmost respect from both sides of the aisle. And I think that speaks volumes as to who Jimmy Carter was. Dr. Larry Cook, I really do appreciate your time. Thank you so much. Again, sorry for the loss of your friend, and he will certainly never be forgotten as a hero. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Brian. Thanks for giving me the chance to talk about my friend. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Absolutely. I appreciate it, Doctor. Appreciate it very much. That's Dr. Larry Cook, everybody. Nationally recognized presidential historian, but even more important, a very close friend to Jimmy Carter and his family. Boy, what wonderful stories he shared with us. I didn't know that Jimmy Carter was one of the one of the first few to pick up the phone and congratulate Donald Trump, because that's the kind of person that Jimmy Carter was, right? A man of decency, a man of character. Stayed out of the nonsense. And what a life that he lived. 100 years old. And for all you people out there, and I know that's not the majority of you, and it's not the majority of Republicans, but to the MAGA morons out there that are going after Jimmy Carter's family for having a birthday celebration with him in the park when he had turned 100, claiming that you think you know what his family was up to, and they used him as like a prop. You're despicable. You're despicable. And as his friend just said, that's the last thing his family would ever do. You're despicable if you're doing that. All right, so here's what we're going to do. There's a lot to talk about today. There's a lot we've already talked about today. We had former presidential candidate Joe Walsh joining us at the top of the show, talking about these visas and, you know, the Laura Loomers of the world, and Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy, and now Donald Trump taking the side of Elon Musk, even though in 2020 we played the audio of Donald Trump saying the exact opposite. We're certainly talking about that. And of course, we're talking about the incredible life of the 39th president, Jimmy Carter, who passed away yesterday at the age of 100. Before I take a break, I'll go into a little bit more detail with you on my personal story. I'm trying to remember whether I was 21 or 22. I think I was 22 years old. I could be wrong on that. But I was 22 years old, and I got my first job in radio right out of college. Wasn't making a ton of money. I was a news anchor and a reporter for a local station in New London, Connecticut, called WSUB. Now, I would assume that station still exists, but I don't know. I haven't gone on their website. I haven't checked. But the station is WSUB, small AM station in New London, Connecticut. I'm just happy to be on the air. I'm 22 years old. It was my first radio job. And I got to cover a few cool things there, but nothing like this. So my program director comes up to me and says, hey, this is a big deal. The former president, Jimmy Carter, is going to be speaking at the Coast Guard Academy. Now, the Coast Guard Academy was about a couple miles down the road from the radio station in, I'm trying to remember whether it was New London, Connecticut or Groton, Connecticut. I haven't been there in so long, I don't even remember. But it was right around that area. Now, I had no idea that I would have the opportunity not only to meet him and shake his hand, but to talk to him. I had no idea. I thought it was going to be just like, I'm going to record his speech and then get out of there and leave and go back to the station. And then some of Jimmy Carter's people, media people, and by the way, there weren't a lot of people covering this. Local media was there, no real national media. Years after Jimmy Carter was president, there was local media there covering the event, a couple TV people, a couple radio people. That was it. There's maybe 5 or 6 members of the media there. And the guy who's running the event says, hey, the former president will answer some of your questions. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to be able to get a chance to ask the former president of the United States some questions. And I did. And I'll be honest with you, I don't even remember exactly what I asked him. It was probably about the event. So anyway, he's answering all of our questions, maybe about a 10-minute media scrum. It wasn't that long. We all are getting our sound bites, and then the cameras are off. We stop recording. And he starts shaking a few hands and talking to some people. And I'm standing there and I'm like, oh my God, I think he's going to shake my hand. So Jimmy Carter comes over, shakes my hand. Hello, how are you? I said, Mr. President, I'm shaking, right? I'm 22 years old. I'm meeting one of the former presidents. I'm like, wow, I'm going to remember this for the rest of my life. I had never even really met anybody famous at that point, let alone a former president. And I'll always remember this because it's not every day you get to meet a former president. He shakes my hand. He says, how are you? What's your name? And I told him my name. He's like, where do you work? And he's like, oh, so, and then he just made pleasantry conversation with me. He said, oh, does your family live here? He asked me, when I started working in radio. I remember I remember this because he asked me, what is it like to live in Connecticut? And I looked at him and I said, it's kind of boring. And then he started laughing. I made him laugh a little bit. So I had a few minutes to be able to speak with the former president. And I'll always remember that. I'll never forget it for the rest of my life. You always have your moments in life. And that was a moment that I'll never forget. And I walked away from that. And I just said to myself, wow, what a really nice man. I wasn't involved politically back then. I wasn't a Republican or a Democrat. I wasn't even registered. I had never voted yet. And I wasn't a political person. I was a young kid who just wanted to be on the air and get an opportunity one day to do a show. But I walked away from that conversation, and I'll remember this. I'm in the car, I'm in the station vehicle, I'm driving back to the station, and I'm thinking to myself, wow, what former president would have done that? What former president would take the time to be such a kind man to talk to every single media person that was there covering the event? And Jimmy Carter was that guy, and I learned that from personal experience. So he will never be forgotten. An incredible man. Jimmy Carter will be sorely missed. My thoughts and prayers to his family and friends, dying at the age of 100. What accomplishments. And I hope someday we get back. I don't have any confidence in this, but someday soon, I hope, get back to that level of compassion and dignity that Jimmy Carter had. And I think of, his lovely wife, 77 years of marriage that had to tear him apart when he lost his wife. I think of somebody, and you heard it from his friend, Dr. Cook, who just did this show, his humanitarianism and the way he cared about people, empathy. And I do think Joe Biden has that. He has that empathy. But I don't want to compare him to anybody else. He's just an incredible man. He will be sorely missed. And our thoughts and prayers to his family and friends. Jimmy Carter passing away at the age of 100. All right. So I ask all of you, check out my website, pushingthelimits.live, where we sell merchandise on there. If you are a fan of the show and you want to support what we do, subscribing to my YouTube page at PTL Radio Show is probably the best opportunity, chance to do that. So please check out the website if you can, and also check out my good friends at Jackson's Bar and Grill, located at Flamingo and Jones. They have the Pass the Puck contest where you could win up to $500 in free slot play. So many other great promotions. Check them out, Jackson's Bar and Grill, the official gaming bar of the Pushing the Limits radio show. And tomorrow for a little bit, the owner of Jackson's Bar and Grill, Brian Sliplock, is going to be joining us because it is New Year's Eve tomorrow, right? And a lot of people ask me questions about tipping. Like, how much are you supposed to tip at a restaurant? How much are you supposed to tip if a bartender serves you one drink? How much are you supposed to tip if you hit a jackpot? I get these questions from people all the time, and it's like, oh, I don't want to call it a controversy, but anyway, he's going to be coming in hour number 2 tomorrow. He's going to take your calls, and he's in the service industry. He's been in the service industry for most of his life. How much should you tip people? And it doesn't even have to be at a restaurant or a bar. It could be valet. It could be somebody bringing your suitcases up to your hotel room. It could be anything. What should we tip in society? We're going to kind of have some fun with that tomorrow, it being New Year's Eve. But coming up next, we're going to take your calls. And we're talking about this Elon Musk, Vivek Ramaswamy controversy, MAGA controversy, I guess you would call it. What you think about these visas? Why do you think Donald Trump is siding with Elon Musk? And also, of course, your comments, and we're talking about Jimmy Carter, the life that Jimmy Carter lived. Will we get back to that level of decency in politics in our lifetime? I'm not sure we will, but I'll take your calls on that, and we're asking you about that. Number to call, 702-221-7283. We are a little more than one day out from 2025. Boy, what a crazy year it has been. And I'll also take your phone calls on that as well. 2024, craziest moments. We'll probably do a little bit of that tomorrow as well. All right, we'll take a quick break. We'll take your phone calls on the other side. 702-221-7283 is the number if you want to join the conversation. Your call's next. You're listening to Pushing the Limits right here on KSHP.
Have you ever dreamed of having your own radio show or a podcast, but just didn't think it was possible? Well, dreams can come true. Radio U. Radio U is a 5-day course that'll teach you how to acquire your dream show. We'll teach you how to host, how to write commercial, how to interview, how to market, how to write a contract, and most importantly, how to monetize your dream radio show. You'll learn from some of the best in the business with over 75 years in broadcast experience. You'll learn from people like me. And the best part? Every single student will be live on the radio as part of the class. Plus, one student from each class will get their very own radio show. You'll be live on the air right here in Las Vegas. Radio U. The 5-day course is being offered at $699. For more information, give Radio U a call. 702-763-5024. That's 702-763-5024. Or check them out at RadioYOU101.com.
Who would have thought there'd be so many kids playing ice hockey in the desert? Jake Helb's Hockey Foundation and the Las Vegas Ice Warriors, founded by Gina Yusufzai 8 years ago, made it possible for families who can't afford the equipment and food. Donate today at www.hockeyforkids.org and help us continue making a difference. Join us in supporting Jake Helb's Hockey Foundation and the Las Vegas Ice Warriors, where every kid gets a shot at the starting line. Just a reminder, our website is www.hockeyforkids.org.
Hey, everybody, are you struggling to find a pizza place that reminds you of Brooklyn? That true blue New York style pie? Well, worry no more. Stallone's Italian Eatery Pizza is a knockout. We're located at 467 East Silverado Ranch Boulevard, just off of Premium Road, half a mile east of South Point Casino, just minutes from the Las Vegas Strip. Come by and grab a slice of pie. Plus, check out our Brooklyn-inspired Italian cuisine. Our sandwiches are super. Hero, that is. Because why be a sub when you can be a hero? Stallone's Italian Eatery is here to serve you phenomenal food, Vegas. Forget about it.
All right, welcome back. It is Pushing the Limits on a Monday. Thank you so much for joining us. A programming note for you. A staunch Trump conservative will be coming on the show to start the show tomorrow. His name is Sid Harth. He's an Indian immigrant. He's on social media now saying that he's considering leaving the Republican Party because of the attacks on Indian immigrants. Now, obviously, I want to talk to him about that, and anybody who goes after anybody who's an immigrant because of color of skin or where they're from is inappropriate. So I'm certainly on his side there, but my question to him will be, why did it take you this long? He's, Donald Trump and these MAGA Republicans have been attacking all immigrants, eating our cats and dogs, so on and so forth. Why is it only when it affects you? So we will be talking to Sid Harth tomorrow on the program about that. Brian Slipok will be joining us in hour number 2. Your phone calls now, 702-221-7283. I believe we have one phone line open. Let's start off with JD. JD is first up on Pushing the Limits. Hello, JD.
Hello, Brian. I'm wondering if you'd like to hear my story of when I first met Governor Jimmy Carter
Sure.
in 1975 when he was running for the presidency.
Sure, please.
And my uncle ran the private aircraft concession at Wilkes-Barre Scranton Airport. And he had a heavy day, and he asked me to come and help him.
JD, I'm sorry to interrupt.
And
what year was this? When was this again?
1975 when he was running for the presidency.
Wow. Okay, go ahead.
So up comes a Cessna, which I, at that point, went out to unload approximately 10 bags. And who walks out with a big grin on his face? Jimmy Carter and about 3 of his aides. And I knew what he was doing because I was following politics. And I said, "Welcome to Wilkes-Barre Scranton, Governor Carter." I said, "I bet you I know why you're visiting here." And he says, "No, young man, why am I visiting here?" I said, "Because you're visiting my hometown, which is the same name as your hometown. I lived in Plains, Pennsylvania." And he laughed, and he says, "No," he says, "I didn't know that." I said, "Then you're coming here to raise money with Governor Casey." And he said, "Yes, you got that one right." So anyhow, we had a little conversation. There was a pickup truck about 10 yards from the plane. I unloaded about 8 or 9 bags, and one of his aides came up to me and handed me 4 brand new $20 bills
Wow.
in 1975. That goes to show you how much money was in politics back there. I guess he bought my vote because he was the only Democrat candidate for president that I voted for.
Well, without even getting into politics, I would imagine you would probably agree. And that's a very, well, wait a second. Did you use the $20 bills or did you save them as a memento?
Brian, let's see, in 75, No, I used the 20.
I know that's a lot of money. I'm not faulting you. I'm not. Listen, I'm not faulting you for it. I was just curious. Maybe I know that's a lot of money back then, but
it's equivalent about $500 today. Probably.
I know that, but I'm just saying maybe it would have been cool back then if maybe you got one of them signed and you kept it. But that's I don't fault you for that. I don't blame you for using them. Would you agree with me that? And this question has nothing to do with politics or policy. And I think it's important as Americans we talk about the man that he was, and I just think, and listen, I wasn't old enough to, really dive deep into it.
Let me interrupt you. He was a good man. He had a good heart. And I believe he tried to do good things when like I said, the only Democrat I voted for president. He tried to do good things. Mm-hmm. But you don't know this. Tip O'Neill was the Speaker of the House. And the entrenched Democrats, he was like a newcomer to Washington, a small town guy from Georgia, the governor. He was like Trump coming to town for the first time. They didn't agree with him, and they didn't work with him, the Democrats, Tip O'Neill, very much in the House to do things that he wanted to do. Now, I missed the first part of your interview with the historian. Did you talk about him being an Annapolis graduate in the nuclear submarine program?
I did say that he served his country as a Navy submariner. We went into a lot of personal conversations.
That's why he was probably up in the area you were going to, because New London had the submarines and everything else.
Correct.
And he was hired, I believe, I get two admirals mixed up. I believe Admiral Rickover was the nuclear genius of our country, and he was hired by him to go into the program. And then he became, like I said, a submariner. So he had a very good mind, and he had a very good heart. And it just didn't work out. He got some bad breaks, the hostages, then the failed attempt to free the hostages.
Obviously, you could call it bad breaks, and people could break down certainly his presidency. But what I think today, yesterday, today, this week, his funeral, I think, in my opinion, what people should focus on is what we have been focusing on: personal stories.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah, the type of man he was, and what he accomplished and helped so many people in his life, the humanitarian work that he had done in his life. Just a good, decent man. And it shouldn't matter whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, right? We should all agree that, this was a man with a moral compass who was a decent human being who was willing to work with people on the other side. And I mean, I saw a video yesterday, JD, of him on a Delta flight with a bunch of strangers, and he would always do this. He would shake every single person's hand in the plane.
He was just a friendly guy. I mean, in the 10 minutes or so that I was with him, you could tell he was genuinely a good guy.
Me as well.
People.
Yeah, me as well. I had something similar.
He got to interacting with everybody. But the thing that struck me to this day when I tell this story to other people, the first thing they say, $80 for 10 bags in 5 minutes. It struck me as how much money is in this game. You mentioned earlier, I think you said Musk gave Trump $300 million. He didn't. He gave him $100 million. But Zuckerberg gave
I didn't say
$419 million.
Yeah, hundreds of millions of dollars is the term I used, because while he might have given Donald Trump.
No, your buddy said $300 million.
Okay, well, I don't. Who's buddy? Who's
your fellow from Chicago? What's his name?
Joe Walsh. Okay,
the guy you interviewed. Yeah, Walsh. He
listen,
said $300 million.
Well, listen, we could split the difference. It was hundreds of millions of dollars, and while on paper it might say $100 million, Elon Musk certainly spent more than that, but he's also gained that back in the last couple months, or I should say in the last month or so, month and a half.
Do you think he really worries about making more money?
Yes, 150%. I can't believe you don't think Elon Musk cares.
$200 billion.
Okay, so let me. If Elon Musk doesn't care about making money, why do you think he put so much money into Donald Trump's campaign? You just think he's a great guy who's going to make America great again? Of course, the answer is no. And I'll give you.
I think he believed that Trump would be the better candidate.
I think that's with all due respect. With all due respect, I think that's a very naive opinion, and I can show you. Why do you think that he wants these? Okay, let me ask it this way. Donald Trump in 2020, I played the audio where Trump. Okay, hold on. Let me just finish.
Ask me the question.
Okay,
I know the background.
Okay, well, I'm going to ask it for the listeners so they understand the question, even though you might know what I'm going to ask you. He was against the H-1B visas. And now we know Elon Musk is nobody more pro HB1 visas than Elon Musk. And now all of a sudden, Donald Trump has changed his mind. Why? You don't think Elon Musk was a part of that?
Well, you don't know the private conversation.
I'm asking you. I'm asking you. You don't think Elon Musk was a part of that decision?
Brian, I'm twice your age. I live in the real world for a long time.
Okay, just because I'm 44 doesn't mean I don't live in the real world. I'm asking you a direct question.
I'm not saying you don't. I'm just saying, if you let me finish, there have been deals made like this all of our lives. I've made deals in business. You probably made deals in your radio career. We all have quid pro.
Okay, so you agree with me that Elon Musk was influential in Donald Trump changing his position on the H-1B visas? You agree?
I would say it's very possible. I'm not positive.
I would say it's very possible as well. Why do you think Elon Musk is for these visas? You think just because he wants to take care of immigrants?
That's a question you don't know and I don't know.
No, I think I do know the answer, because the answer is because when these people come to this country, they can use them and treat them as slave workers, meaning they come to this country, they bring their families here on these visas, and they damn well know if that they get fired, they and their family are deported. That is what this is all about.
Who benefits more for that?
The worker, Elon Musk, his companies do.
No. All the Silicon Valley people, corporations. What does Elon Musk have? He has Twitter, X. That's all.
Elon Musk owns companies around the world, not just X. I don't know what you're talking about. It's not just X that he owns.
I don't know. I don't get into the financial.
Okay. Well, I'm getting. Well. All right. Well, JD, I appreciate your calls. Yes, I do think you're being a little bit naive. I appreciate your story about Jimmy Carter, but if you're going to say to me and look me in the eye that you don't think Elon Musk cares about making more money, you are very naive. If you're a millionaire, you want to be a multimillionaire. If you're a billionaire, you want to be a multi-billionaire. And if you're a multi-billionaire, you want to be a trillionaire. I know several billionaires. They're all the same to me. They all want to have more money. And if you own 4 cars, you want to own a boat. If you own a boat, you want to own a jet. If you own a jet, you want to own a city. You want to own a sports franchise. It's never ending with these people. It's about ego. And yes, it's about money, JD. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Tony. I believe Tony is next up on PTL. Hi, Tony.
Hey, Brian. I love your show, man, as I always say.
Thank you.
It's my 3rd time calling in.
Thank you.
Funny enough, you actually touched on what I was going to talk about. Now, I'm not big on conspiracy theories, but if I may indulge in it just a little bit.
Sure. It
occurred to me that this whole, visa thing, Trump turning on it, I think it's because, I speculate that when the time comes down to whether or not he's going to do the mass deportation thing, he might actually say, well, okay, instead of deporting them, let's just put them on these visas. Because, one of the questions that you and a lot of people say is, well, can't they just consider a path to citizenship instead of deportation? And everyone's been saying no, but all of a sudden, okay, maybe we're open to that. And then they say, well, let's put them on these visas. Before you know it, instead of deporting 11 million immigrants, suddenly you have a workforce of 11 million immigrants who are basically indentured servants to the biggest industries already here in the country.
Yeah,
it's a possibility. Because Trump tends to have this pattern where he wants to propose something that's outrageous.
You can tell me. I hear you. Tell me if you disagree. And I'm going to say this in layman's terms. This is how I feel. And I had Ron Filipowski from Midas touch on last week, and he kind of alluded to this too, which is I believe this was one of the main reasons why Elon Musk put in so much money into the Trump campaign. He knew that it would pay dividends for him, and it already has hundreds of millions of dollars, probably trillions by the end of Trump's tenure. And I believe that they had this private conversation months ago, probably with Vivek Ramaswamy as well. And Donald Trump agreed to change his mind on this because of all the money that Elon Musk was donating and putting into the Trump campaign. The only reason why Elon Musk wants this done is so that he could take advantage of workers from other countries that are skilled to come in here, whereas Americans that are working for him, they'll ask for a raise. We know all the people that used to work for X that were going on strike. He fired all of them. He doesn't want any of his employees going on strike. He doesn't want anybody to contradict him. He doesn't want anybody to criticize him. And what's been going on X over the last couple days is a perfect example. Even somebody like a Laura Loomer, he suspends her account. He takes away her blue check mark. Elon Musk does not want to be challenged at all. It could be a Don Lemon interview.
Exactly.
It could be somebody on social media because he's a coward and he's insecure and he doesn't want people challenging him. Now, how does this pertain to what we're talking about? He doesn't want his workers challenging him. So if an immigrant comes here, let's just say from India, and they bring their family out here, which I'm sure he wants them to do, he understands if they're on a work visa, if he fires them, if they challenge him or do something wrong, if he fires them, they're going to be deported. So he knows many of these people are not stupid. If they come here, they're going to be worried. They're going to be careful. They're not going to challenge the boss. They're not going to ask for a raise. They're not going to do anything to undermine him. And that is, in essence, why he is for these work visas. I don't think it's brain surgery.
No, I completely agree 100%. He wants to basically create what would equate to almost a legalized slave class.
Right.
Because, he wants workers that have no protections that American citizens would have because they're on these visas. And as I said, I think that when it comes down to the wire, he's going to convince Trump to say, look, instead of deporting all these people, we'll just say, you know what? You guys can stay in the country, you can keep working, but now you're on these visas. And then,
right.
Now these people are like, okay, well, now I don't get deported, but, now I can't object or ask for a raise. I can't, speak for myself. Like, I mean, we're talking about a guy who's, I believe, I know Musk immigrated mostly from Canada, but he's South African, is he not?
Yes, he is. And,
like I said, I don't know what his position on apartheid was, but I'm just saying.
Well, he's a coward.
He
and for anybody out there, and thank you for the call, my friend, for anybody out there that would suggest, and I know you're not, that Elon Musk doesn't care about money. His entire life is defined by money. Okay. It's not being a good father. Ask his daughter, his trans daughter, who called her dad publicly a racist and a horrible dad. Elon Musk is a bad guy. He has bad intentions. He doesn't care about helping the country. He doesn't care about American citizens. He doesn't care about immigrants. He only cares about himself and his investors. That's it. He doesn't care about his own employees. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Evan. Evan is next up on PTL. Hello, Evan.
Hi. You just basically said what I wanted to say, but I want to say, anybody that thinks he doesn't care about money is, as you said, naive, and it kind of explains the disconnect with a lot of these people, poor people that would vote for Donald Trump and think Elon Musk is a savior of some sort. All he cares about is being a trillionaire, and he'll step over the bodies of immigrants, of poor people, sick people, seniors like me that depend on Social Security to have a decent lifestyle. He'd step over us to get there. So he has no compassion, no empathy for anybody like us.
You're right. I completely agree with you. Well said. And I don't know why. Don't you find it interesting, sir, that all these MAGAs out there that were going after Elon Musk, and the second their orange orangutan leader decides to agree with Elon Musk, which I knew was going to happen, all of a sudden, a lot of that criticism for Elon Musk goes away. They're such a cultist, these people. It's pathetic, but they're still going after Vivek. I wonder why. What's the difference between Vivek Ramaswamy and Elon Musk? Well, Vivek Ramaswamy is brown. That's why. He has black brown skin. I think that's the difference.
That's the first thing that occurred to me also.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you, sir, and good points. Thank you for calling in. I appreciate you. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Julie. Julie is next up on PTL. Hey, Julie, what's going on?
Hey, Brian. I was actually at work yesterday, and I found some tabloid about our favorite person.
Oh,
and they were uncovering Trump.
Yeah.
I normally don't read those things, but some of the things in that tabloid were pretty interesting, especially the one about Melania.
Oh, what did they say about Melania? What did they say? She's selling more $90 Christmas ornaments for like half off because it's after Christmas now? What is it?
They said that she wants to sleep in a different bedroom than Trump.
Well, she has been. I mean, I don't think they've been in the same bedroom for decades. How do we know this? Because one of the women who first came forward about an inappropriate relationship, and I'm forgetting her name at the moment, when he was married to Melania early on in their marriage, had stated that, and this was years ago, that he hadn't slept in the same bed with Melania for decades. And that was like over 10, 15 years ago. So, yeah, I think the last time they conceived, it might have been artificial insemination. That's what I'm thinking it was when Barron was conceived.
Yeah.
I'm being serious. I really believe that.
It's actually in their prenup.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Well,
in their prenup.
yeah. I mean, listen,
They have this reason to different. I know this is off topic, but I
That's
just
okay.
had to tell you.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. And I could also say that I think Stormy Daniels got paid about $15,000 per second, from what I understand. And even that's not enough. 702-221-7283, the number to call. Let's go to Mark. Mark is next on PTL. What's going on, Mark?
Hey, Brian, how are you?
Good.
And happy holidays.
Thank you. You as well.
My first comment to JD, if you can't realize that Elon Musk doesn't want to hire Americans because he has no control over them, and he couldn't pay the dirt poor salary he wants to pay them because no American would work for him. That's why he wants the immigrant Indians to come over on a visa so he has complete control over their lives.
Yeah.
And that's the only reason why he wants them here.
Agree.
Now, on YouTube, in your chat, Brian, I cannot believe that there are people that honestly do not believe that Project 2025 is not an issue.
You're talking about are you talking about the YouTube chat?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
yeah.
I just cannot believe it that they're saying that they're not going to cut Medicare, they're not going to cut Social Security. When did a billionaire ever help out the average Joe? And all Trump is doing is filling up his entire administration with these billionaires. Just listen to Mike Lee on YouTube, right, Brian?
Mm-hmm.
What did he say on a leaked video? My goal is to eliminate Social Security.
But Mark, you're forgetting something, okay? I don't doubt what
They're in a bubble.
Well,
they're in a bubble.
7 out of 10 Republicans still believe that Donald Trump won the 2020 election. So when you have 70% of the Republican Party that, in my estimation, are complete imbeciles, of course they're not going to think Project 2025 is serious. So, Mark, I'm with you. I think they're morons, but at the same time, 7 out of 10 Republicans are idiots. I mean, I don't know what else to say. If 7 out of 10 Democrats today said that Kamala Harris won the 2024 election, I would say the same thing about them. Thank you for the call, Mark. Happy holidays. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Darlene. Darlene is next up on PTL. Hey, Darlene.
Hey, Brian. Now, listen, this is in regards to Mr. JD. And I hope you're listening out there, JD. He is so see-through. I mean, he gets on your show and he's trying to be all nice so he can tell a story about his friend, rest in peace, Jimmy Carter.
Yeah.
But then anytime you said something, he was like, well, you don't know it, or he knows better than you. And I thought, oh, my God, here we go. And then he went into typical MAGA. You know, we know everything. You don't know nothing, Brian.
Darlene,
Darlene,
you're a firecracker, and I need to come up with some sort of nickname for you as a positive nickname. What would you like it to be?
I wish you were my son.
Darlene, the MAGA destroyer. I don't know. Okay, I'm going to leave it to people.
That sounds
okay,
good.
so that's one. I'm going to have people. I'm going to look on the chat, and we have to have a nickname for you. Darlene, the MAGA destroyer is something that I would ask for. But if somebody could come up with something better, we got to have our daily Darlene call, Darlene the Destroyer. Okay,
That's right.
Yeah.
And I have one more thing to say before I go.
Yeah.
Now, really, seriously, Trump. You're going to sit there and put a Merry Christmas, like, wonderful message out there, and then in the same breath say, go to hell?
Yeah.
Who does that, people? Who does that?
I agree. MAGA.
It is ridiculous.
MAGA morons.
And Elon, he wants as much money as he can get. And he wants your money, JD. Believe me. And he wants the power. That's what it is.
He wants your money and he wants your couch. Darlene, the MAGA destroyer. Thank you for calling in. I hope you call back again tomorrow. Thanks, Darlene.
Bye.
Going to make Darlene famous here on the show. Thanks, Darlene. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. We're hearing dynamite, Darlene. and some other pretty good nicknames. I'll think about that. Let's go to Jim. Jim is next up on PTL. What's up, Jim?
Good morning. I want to add to the conversation because I started challenging the daily posts from and the next on the direction the country is going, the economy, the trucks, the cyber trucks, and the launches to space, and with figures, with numbers, how much that contributes to the economy or to the state of the country and the state of the world, and whatnot, and with real numbers. Are we fighting climate change? Are we fighting global warming with those things like he asserts that he is doing? He's not, because the numbers don't show up. And CO2 is up, global warming is up, storms are bigger. And the next thing that
but hold on a second, Jim. Hold on a second, Jim. As far as the storms go, Donald Trump will claim that he can nuke the storms. As far as climate change is, it is funny because it's so ridiculous, but he's the one who actually said that. And as far as climate change goes, Republicans are complicit. They don't think it exists. Listen, here's what you're going to hear, Jim, over the course of the next 4 years. Donald Trump is going to be on the golf course almost every day. When he does press conferences, he's going to play the victim and blame the Democrats for everything. He's not going to be able to solve issues at the border. He's not going to be able to solve ending the war in the Ukraine, which he said he's going to end in 24 hours. He's not going to be able to solve the issues in the Middle East. He's not going to lower inflation. He's already told us, basically, he's not going to be able to do that.
I know all of those. So I start challenging those very, very small, very short posts, nothing details, just say, no, this won't work because of this and that. And the next thing that I hear was click. And my account was locked several times.
Which account for what? Which account for what?
On Twitter. On Twitter.
Wow.
X,
well,
Twitter.
You know what?
Was blocked. But it wasn't blocked like with a warning or an explanation.
They just took it down,
in a millisecond.
Well, that's, I'm not surprised. Jim, I'm sorry that happened to you. You sound like a really smart guy. Listen, I hate to defend somebody like Laura Loomer because I think she's a despicable human being inside and out. She's disgusting in every aspect of the world, every aspect. And she's tweeted at me multiple times. And then when I say, why don't you come on and talk about it? She's a coward. She won't come on. But some of you aren't going to like what I'm about to say. I thought what Elon Musk did to her was wrong. Now, I don't feel bad for her in any way, shape, or form. She's terrible. But Elon Musk and many of these people on the Maga right talk about freedom of speech until the cows come home, unless it's something that affects them or unless it's somebody that is attacking them. And she wasn't even really attacking Elon Musk as much as criticizing him. Elon Musk is full of crap. He's full of crap. It's only freedom of speech if they like what they hear. If you're outside in front of a Target picketing, saying people shouldn't go to Target, they shouldn't go to Target because they're selling LGBTQ shirts and whatever, then that's wrong. And let's go outside in front and let's picket and let's make sure customers don't go in there. That's okay. But if Laura Loomer criticizes me, Elon Musk, then I'm going to take you off of Twitter. It's absurd. 702-221-7283 is the number to call if you do want to be a part of the conversation. Again, that number is 702-221-7283. Let's see, who are we going to do next year? Let's go to Tyrone. I believe Tyrone is next up on PTL. Hey, Tyrone, what's going on, man?
Hey, Brian, good afternoon. Happy New Year.
Thank you. Same
happy holidays to you.
Thank you.
And your family. Look, these MAGA people are some of the biggest snowflakes I've ever seen. And not only that, they twist that, they're so wedded to this ideology that they twist themselves into pretzels when they don't want to admit basic facts. I mean, the guy you had on, JD, whatever his name was, who went from Jimmy Carter to talking about Elon, he asked one of the dumbest questions I've ever heard. You really think he wants to make more money? Who doesn't?
Exactly.
I haven't met you cannot, the reality of it is, Brian, you cannot get to the position of being a billionaire unless you are willing to step on, over, and through a whole lot of people.
Right, right.
And once you get to the top of that ladder or mountain, you continue to fight to keep people off the top with you. Now, he said that the guy JB, he said that he was been business and done business deals, and he spoke with so much authority. But and then in the second breath, he had no knowledge of the companies that Elon owns. He said, "Oh, he's just got X or Twitter." Like, no, he's got Starlink, he's got Tesla, and he's got a bunch of other companies that are subsidiaries of Star. What are you talking about? He's got defense contracts,
right,
and all of this stuff. When you're in business, your number one way to increase your profit margin is to do what? Reduce your labor costs.
Correct.
That's the number one thing you need to do.
Here's the thing. But here's the thing, right? You're speaking logic, and you sound like a really intelligent guy. But I don't think you have to be intelligent to say what you're saying, right? I mean, this is just pure logic. Everybody wants to make more money, and and that's the reason why people like JD and others, with all due respect to them, they think that Elon Musk just woke up and said, "Hey, I really like Donald Trump's policies. I think he's a really great guy, so I'm going to donate hundreds of millions of dollars to his campaign." No, this was all about money for Elon Musk. It was about these visas. It was about using workers as immigrants, as slaves. Let's call it for what it is.
Right. And then the other piece about Trump is he kind of dismissed it, said, "Oh, well, they did some dealing and wheeling down." Wait a minute, that sounds swampy to me. They're just making deals. Aren't you a president to have a certain ideology or a certain, don't you have morals that you're willing to stick to, even if I don't agree with them? So you're just telling me you're available to the highest bidder. That's basically what he said about Trump. He's available to the highest bidder, whichever works for him in the moment of the day. There is no policy prescription that he is wedded to. Even the racism stuff. If he thought for a second that he could benefit from being some ultra liberal, that would help his companies, help his business, he'd do it.
I agree.
The man has no moral foundation. He's transactional. Whoever's offering the best deal, he's going for it.
You're not going to hear an argument from me, my friend. I appreciate your call. I think you're 150% correct. All right, number to call, 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Let's go to Chris. Chris is next up on PTL. Hello, Chris.
Hey, Brian. When I was in the Navy, I met President Carter in Washington, D.C., and I was considering going into submarines. And I asked him, what's the best thing about going into the submarine field? And he said, well, the best thing is, and just speak to his sense of humor, he said 100 sailors go down and 50 couples come back. And I was like, oh, my God, that's crazy. What branch did you serve in, Brian? Because I heard you on a X-Space saying that you were in the
I'm glad you asked that question.
Military.
Sure. I'm glad you asked that question, Chris. And unfortunately, there are a lot of trolls on social media that I laugh at that I think it's actually quite funny. So I'm glad you asked this question because usually I don't address trolls, but you can stay on the line. I'm not going to hang up on you. That's totally fine. So I was in about 5 or 6 spaces over the weekend. One of the spaces that I was in was a black MAGA space. I was the only white person that entered the room, and there's a reason why. I'll get to that. So I was the only white person in the room, and it was a black MAGA space. And the headline, I'm trying to remember exactly what it was, but it's "White People, What Are You Going to Do Now?" in regards to Vivek Ramaswamy. So I went into the space with good intentions. I assumed they wanted to hear from somebody white. Happy to do it. So I start talking, and I was discredited based on the color of my skin. They claimed my opinion was not valid because I'm white, which is blatant racism. They attacked my heritage, and they attacked me for my religion. So I wanted to know if I served in the military, which I didn't, and if I did, would they respect me then? So what I did was I said, hold on, I'm not done yet, Chris. You got to let me answer.
Okay.
Don't interrupt, please.
Sorry.
I'm getting to that. Please don't interrupt. That's when I hang up on people. So I said, I served and my father served because I wanted to hear their reaction to see, even though I'm white, which they discredited me because I was white, and I'm Jewish, and they went after my religion and my heritage. They even questioned my heritage. I wanted to see, in the 15 people or so that were in there that were all bigoted racist, even if I'm white, are they going to respect me if I say that I serve? Now, they don't know who I am, and I don't care if they respect me or not, but I wanted to see from my perspective, will they respect somebody that served in the military? And they did not. Now, I never served in the military, and if I went on the air today and I said, yeah, I served because I wanted all my listeners to have more respect for me, that would be awful and that would be wrong. But the reason why I said that in that chat and in that space with a bunch of horrible people, by the way, and you can go in there, which I'm sure you haven't, and you can listen to the entire space, which I'm sure you haven't. I'm sure you just listened to a 12-second soundbite. The reason why I picked...
It's 6 hours long. I listened to a good chunk of it.
I wonder, okay, so if you listen to a chunk of it, did you hear them go after me because of my religion and the color of my skin? Did you hear that?
Yeah, they were nasty. You wanted them to like you.
Okay, thank you.
And
no,
they
I did not.
like
No,
you.
I did not want them to like me. You are wrong. Let me be very clear. I don't want bigots to like me. I don't want racists to like me. I don't want bad people to like me. And I don't want trolls to like me. And the reason why I said that in that space of 15 or 20 people, because I wanted to test them to see if they actually respected somebody if they served, regardless of if they're white or if they're Jewish. I got my answer. The answer was no. Does that not make any sense to you, Chris?
It's kind of a weak excuse for
all right.
lying.
Well, okay. Well, have a nice day, Chris. If you think that's a weak excuse and you're not smart enough to understand why I said that to a bunch of bigoted racists, have a nice day, Chris. I think most semi-intelligent people would probably understand why I said that to prove a point, which is they don't respect you even if you had served the country because you're white and they're bigoted in nature. I wanted to test it to see if they would. So you can go ahead and nitpick and say I'm a liar. Meanwhile, you're the same guy who's probably on social media defending all of Donald Trump's lies, the man who you probably voted for. Have a nice day, sir. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Let's go to Armando. Armando is next up on PTL. Hey, Armando, what's going on, man?
Oh, hi, Brian. Okay, recently I was watching, well, maybe over a week ago, I saw a clip on the YouTube thing, and Donald Trump was in Phoenix addressing this crowd, and he comes up, he says, do you know the Panama Canal?
Yeah.
And, there's a hush. Did you see that one, that rally? And anyway,
I don't think I think I did. Yeah, the Panama Canal stuff is just crazy. But yeah, go ahead.
Crazy. I mean, you're right. And so there was a hush, I could imagine question marks going on. What are you talking about?
Right.
And then he says, well, they're charging us our shipping. They're unfair. They're really taking advantage of us, charging us exorbitant rates. And then he says, they better straighten up or I'm going to take the canal. And then all the crowd goes wild,
Right.
I'm going to take the canal back.
Right.
And then the irony is, well, the problem Panama has is the drought. And they use fresh water to fill up the locks so you can raise and lower the ships traversing the canal.
Mm-hmm.
And so when they don't have enough water, the ships have to wait out there in the Pacific side or Atlantic. And so the irony, the thing is, he didn't explain that there's a drought. And
that shouldn't surprise you. He doesn't explain. He doesn't explain a lot of things. He says a lot of stupid things with no understanding of even how the visas work. So that doesn't surprise me. Does that surprise you? It doesn't surprise me that he didn't explain himself.
He doesn't explain himself completely in the crowd. And then there's this guy. He's always had these guys. The whistler. You could tell he's the same guy who whistles. Next time if you go to one of these crowds, see if you can identify this guy. He's got the same whistle all the time.
Yeah, unfortunately, he does, my friend. I'm with you. Listen, the Panama Canal talk, the talk about Trudeau, this is not a serious man. Like he said, he thinks he can nuke hurricanes. This is not a serious man. Inject yourself with disinfectant, he said. 702-221-7283 is the number to call if you want to be a part of the conversation. Let's go to Tom. Tom is next up on PTL. What's up, Tom?
Hey, Brian, it's Tom from Minnesota. Just want to wish you a happy New Year.
Thank you.
And
You as well, my
also,
friend.
Thank you. And I see that you got the Golden Knights poster behind you there.
I
just want to inform you I am now and always have been a Wild fan. So,
cool. Well, I'm glad to hear that.
We're going to do battle there. But anyways, on to the politics. But talking about the morality of Jimmy Carter versus the orange turd. You couldn't be at greater ends of the spectrum there. And I'm just wondering, isn't it usually the case that when someone dies, like a former president, that you have another president will come out and give condolences? I'm just wondering, have we heard anything from him?
So he did
today?
put out he did put out a Truth Social tweet. I'm sure it was one of his handlers that did so. And the first paragraph, if he did write it, which I don't believe it did, but whoever wrote it made it about him, about talking about how prestigious the presidency is. And then he went into thoughts and prayers for the family. Listen, it reminds me, going back, if you recall, Tom, when John McCain passed away. John McCain did not want Donald Trump to attend his funeral. His family didn't want Donald Trump there. Jimmy Carter was such an honorable man and lived such an honorable life. And we found out in this actual show, we actually found out that Jimmy Carter was one of the first to congratulate Donald Trump when he won, because that's the kind of guy Jimmy Carter was, right?
Yes.
Uh-oh. Did we lose him? Okay. Sorry about that. I think we lost you, my friend. 702-221-7283 is the number to call if you would like to be a part of the conversation. All right. Let's go to somebody who calls himself Maga Patrick. I think that's the way he wants to be called. I don't know. Very honorable. Maga Patrick, lower your radio, please, sir. You're a veteran in calling into shows. You'd think you would know that. Go ahead, Patrick.
Yeah, Maga Patrick. Yeah, shout out to all my fans in the chat. All my.
Do you have a lot of
people on
fans?
Twitter.
How many followers do you have? You have a lot of fans? I don't know, because
Hey,
I've never
I'll tell
seen
you
your
what.
Twitter. How many followers do you have?
It's huge, man.
Patrick, how many followers do you have?
Enough that I don't have to lie about being syndicated.
Okay, so let's talk about that. Sure, let's talk about that. Patrick, I'm not going to hang up on you.
Brian.
Patrick, I'm not going to hang up on you. I'm not
Congratulations,
going to hang up on you, but I'm going to pod you down. And even though he's off topic, and I'm in a good mood today. I'm in a really good mood today because I'm going to accept these calls. But in the future, Patrick, you need to be on topic. So, Patrick, do you know what the definition of syndicated is? Go ahead, pod him back up. I'm going to try to educate the MAGA buffoon dope. Patrick, what's the definition of syndication?
So are we lowering the standards now, Brian?
Patrick,
You're not gonna be
I didn't ask.
syndicated, huh?
Patrick, I'm asking you what the definition is. Answer the question. You're wasting my
Why
airtime.
did you feel the? Why
Pot
did
him
you
down
feel
again. Patrick, I'm going to give you one more opportunity. Just like always, you're not able to answer a question. We're going to go one by one. If you're not going to answer my question, or you can't, then just say it, and I will tell you what the definition is. Patrick, what is the definition of syndication? Do you know what the definition is? I'm asking you now for a second time. If you don't know, tell me you don't know. Go ahead, Patrick.
Well, I know what it's not. It's not a YouTube channel or
Okay, pot him down. I will educate Patrick, because Patrick is obviously very stupid. And somebody just told me on social media, Patrick has 8 followers on X. I don't know if that's true or not. I've never seen his social media. I don't care. So, Patrick, you don't know the definition of something that you're claiming I am. So that's okay. I'll explain it to you, Patrick, because I love educating stupid people like you. The definition of syndicate is a group of people or businesses that work together as a team. So, Patrick, I don't know if you were aware of this or not. I'm on the Occupy Democrats Network. I'm on the Washington Press Network. I'm on the Proud Democrats Network. I'm on Fight Trump Facebook pages, including Impeach Trump, Resist Trump. I'm also on YouTube. My YouTube page, as you mentioned, it has exploded. It's growing by the day. Over 53,000 subscribers. I'm also on Twitch. I'm also on X. And I'm also involved in 2 very important conversations with 2 very large companies, as I've mentioned before, in 2025. We're growing. So that is the definition of syndication, Patrick. A group of businesses that are working together, broadcasting the same show. In this aspect, I just named you 10 to 12 different entities, Patrick. So that's the definition of syndicate. I've already addressed the space that I was in, which obviously you're not smart enough to understand. I explained that 10 minutes ago. So Patrick, if there's anything that, because I know you probably don't understand my explanation, and I quite frankly, I really don't care, because I will say this to you though, Patrick, please continue to talk about me on social media to your 8 followers. The larger following, the better, because the more people that talk about me, negative or positive, is better for my show. The more people are talking about me, it means more people don't like me. It gives me more power, and it gives me more, I guess you could say, what's the word I'm looking for? More tenacity to show up to work every day and keep doing what I'm doing, because it triggers snowflakes like you. Patrick, why are you such a snowflake? Would you like to talk about any of the topics that we've talked about on the air today, or do you just want to continue to embarrass yourself? Do you want to talk about Donald Trump? Do you want to talk about Elon Musk? Or are you not smart enough or capable enough to having that conversation? Or are you just going to be a troll?
No,
Which is it?
It's quite
Which is
fascinating.
it?
Every time you
Which
say
is it?
something like "I served" and someone takes that to
Okay,
heart,
so he doesn't want to
we're
have
not
a serious.
smart en- we're not
He doesn't.
smart
He
enough to
doesn't want to have a serious conversation. Patrick, I just explained that to a caller a few callers ago. You're obviously not smart enough to understand why I said that and the point that I was trying to make. You're obviously not smart enough. But again, I'm in a really good mood today because Patrick didn't know the definition of what syndicate is, and I tried to explain that to him. I actually gave him the Webster Dictionary, if I recall, the Webster Dictionary definition, but he's so stupid, he doesn't even know what he's saying. Brian, you're not syndicated, you're just on YouTube. Doesn't even know what the definition of syndicated is, as the camera falls again. We've had some camera issues today, by the way. For a syndicated show, I do need better cameras. I will give some people that for the trolls out there. So, Patrick, that's okay. I'll give you one more go at this, Patrick, okay? One more go. Because I'm very patient today and I'm in a good mood, Patrick. And quite frankly, people like you are good for the show. I laugh at people like you every day because you're extremely stupid. But that's okay. I like stupid people calling into the show. So, Patrick, what do you think about the guy who you support back in 2020 that was against these visas? And now all of a sudden, Elon Musk is in his ears and he's changed his tune. Patrick, how do you feel about that? You voted for him. How do you feel about that?
how much do you pay a month to be on?
There you go. He doesn't want to answer any of my questions. See that? He doesn't want to answer. Bye-bye. Another troll. Patrick, keep talking about me. I love living in your head rent-free. I love the fact that you tweet about me all the time, I'm sure, right? I love the fact that you're a guy with 8 followers with no following, but you're obsessed with this show, that you call in every day, and it's so much fun to destroy you every day. Hey, Patrick, have a nice day, dumbbell. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Lou. Lou is next up on PTL. What's up, Lou?
Hey, Brian, I hope I'm not off topic, but next time ask Maga Patrick if he has $100,000 laying around so he could pay to pray with Trump and Melania.
130. Get it right. 130.
130?
Yeah.
130. Okay. Anyway, did you hear about that pay to pray the day before the inauguration?
No, explain that to me. Maybe I have, maybe I haven't. I'm not sure. Go ahead.
Well, I heard there were reports that Trump's transition team is coordinating a pay to pray event, undisclosed location. If you have $100,000, you could pray with Trump and Melania the day before the inauguration.
Really? How much are they charging for that, my friend?
$100,000.
Oh, I thought you were joking. Oh, wait, hold on.
No.
I'm sorry. What was your name again, sir?
Lou.
Okay. So Lou, let's talk about this because I was unaware of this. This is entertaining to me. So you're saying that the Trump team or the Trump campaign or people around Trump are saying you can sit and pray with Melania and Donald Trump if you fork up $100K. You know, I would, I don't know. I would rather maybe, I'm surprised Trump doesn't ask for like $130K so he can sleep with you for 10 seconds.
Well, again, they're saying to contribute to his festivities during the inauguration, the party. But you know where all that money is going to go to.
Of course we do. So this is something interesting, though. Let's just say, Lou, and I know, I'm not talking about you, but in general, you're a really far-right religious, you're a God man, whatever. You believe in Jesus, God, the Bible, all that stuff. Why would you want to pray with a guy who's never read the Bible before? I guess that's I don't understand.
Because you're in a cult.
Yeah, that's probably the best way you can answer that.
You know?
So where can I spend $100,000? Like, who do I pay? Like, did they give is there a website? Pray with the liable sexual abuser? Like, what's the name of the website? Like, if I had that money, where would I go to pray with Donald Trump and Melania? Where would I go?
I think, let's see. I'm looking at a article here. It's being coordinated by his transition team.
Oh, wow. Well,
I'm
don't
sure
say,
if you go
be
on
careful. Don't say the word,
DonaldTrump.org.
be careful. Don't say the word transition around MAGA supporters because they'll think you're talking about something else and it gets them very, very upset.
Ouch. My bad.
Well, Lou, I'm going to look into this. I'm glad you brought this up. I'm going to look into this and maybe we'll dig deeper into it tomorrow. Okay, my friend?
Sounds good, Brian.
All right.
Thanks for the call.
Thanks, Lay. Appreciate you. Thank you for the call. 702-221-7283 is the number to call if you want to be a part of the conversation. $100,000 to pray with Donald Trump. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Paul. Paul is next up on PTL. What's up, Paul?
Didn't you know that Jesus only talks to rich people, Brian? He doesn't love poor people like you and I.
What do you make about that, Paul? Paul, what do you make about that? $100,000 to pray with Cheeto Jesus. What do you make of that?
Brian, he is their Jesus. They're praying to him.
Oh my God.
I mean, I'm a Christian. This is a cult. I don't know how else to say it. You know what? This is what I think, Brian. I think that God sent Trump here to expose all of the religious hypocrites in America, to show how morally bankrupt this country truly is. I really believe that in my heart, because every person that commits a crime, that commits adultery, that's done something with a child, Matt Gaetz, Donald Trump, they're all criminals. Look at the Catholic Church, Brian. Every person that claims to love Jesus is the most immoral, bankrupt person.
Speaking of
in the
immoral,
United States
so
of
Paul, I agree. Speaking of immoral, what would you say to the people out there? They don't donate to charities. They complain about the homeless, but they don't help the homeless. Like, for example, Arnold Schwarzenegger, he's a hero. He donated $250,000 of his own money for these small homes for the homeless. He's a hero, by the way. What would you say to these people out there that are the opposite? They don't donate any money to charity. They don't donate money to their churches or synagogues or whatever religion they have. They don't help the needy, but yet they go into their bank account. They take out $100,000 just so they can get a photo op with the president and a Bible and say that they prayed with him. What would you say about those people?
This is what I would say about someone like Jimmy Carter. He was an actual person of faith. Here's why. If you go on any MAGA supporters website, it's always some straight, white, middle-aged person that goes, Jesus loves me. I'm a child of God, American flag. And they quote some scripture out of 2 Corinthians, right? Real Christians, Brian, do what Jimmy Carter did. They help people. People that have faith actually live their life as people of faith. They don't have to tell you and throw it in your face and make you feel like a total idiot because you're not perfect. That's what I would say. And any religion, which is what MAGA is a religion that says you have to use financial resources in order to talk to God, that's ridiculous. You're stupid if you're spending $100,000.
You're not going to get an argument from me.
But Brian, you know what's really dumb? Those same idiots are complaining about the price of eggs.
You're right. You're Paul. You're right. And I talk about this stuff every day, my friend. Paul, good to hear from you. I appreciate your call. You feel free to call again tomorrow. You know, I love callers with some intelligence. Don't get me wrong. I also love the uneducated when people like Patrick and Chris and whoever else call in that try to get me in gotcha moments and they got embarrassed. I do enjoy that very much. 702-221-7283. I love living in people's heads rent free. And I love the fact that they talk, people will talk about me nonstop. I ain't going anywhere. Let's go to Al. Al is next up on PTL. What's up, Al? How's it going?
Speaking of people that you like, people talking about you, that's how Muhammad Ali became famous.
Very
he
true.
used to talk all this stuff, and everybody wanted him to get knocked out. Nobody could knock him out.
Floyd Mayweather. Mayweather. Say what you want about Floyd Mayweather. He had a lot of haters out there, and he had a pretty nice career for himself, didn't he?
Yeah, there you go. Hey, listen, so just out of curiosity, so you're praising Jimmy Carter. He was a nice guy. I'm not going to say he was a nice guy. He was a man of faith. But then on the other hand, the other day you were saying that the Bible.
I never
is
once.
a fairy tale,
Hold on,
and
Al.
now
Al.
Okay, go
Al.
ahead.
I
Go
never
ahead.
once.
You know where I'm going. Go ahead.
I never once brought up his religion or faith. What I said about Jimmy Carter, again, I mean, I'm just being honest with you. I don't care what his religion was. I never brought that up. What I did bring up, his marriage, the good father, the good husband.
No, you're right.
The fact that he was a humanitarian, the fact that he even picked up the phone to call Donald Trump immediately after he was elected, a Nobel Peace Prize winner, an author of over 30 books. I never brought up his faith because that is not.
I know, but let me.
But I will say this. But I will hold on. I'll let you go. But I will say I will say this. If he was a man of faith, which I'm not necessarily interested in or talking about, he certainly lived his life, I think, the way somebody like Jesus would want him to live his life, because he cared about others. He had empathy, unlike the guy who you voted for, Al, with all due respect.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, well, let's leave him out of the. All I'm just saying is that all I got to say is that the Bible or the Word of God or the book that you call a fairy tale, I think had a big influence on his personality.
Okay, so first of all, I didn't say everything in the book was a fairy tale. You misquote me time and time again. I said there are. Hold on. I want to clarify. I think there are parts of the book that are fairy tale. Yes, I do. My question to you, Al, is because I don't think you're a bad guy at all. Okay, I just can't seem to understand, as someone like yourself, who is a man who is for the Bible, would vote for a guy who claims the Bible is his favorite book and refuses to and cannot recite one sentence in the book, not one verse. And then, worse, he makes the Bibles for $3 in China and sells them for $60 in America. If you care about the Bible and you're a man of faith and you care about that holy and sacred book that you claim you do care about, which, by the way, I believe you, then why on earth would you support a man and defend a man who makes money off the Bible, who holds it upside down and lies about the Bible being his favorite book? Why would you defend that?
First of all, just because you threw three things in there, but I ran and I saw the video where they asked him what your favorite verse is. And he says, I don't want to say the verse. And then they asked him, what do you like? He goes, I don't want to say, and that's fine. Maybe you don't like.
He didn't just hold on, Al.
I don't have a favorite verse.
Al.
But let me finish.
No,
Brian.
but you're wrong because you're wrong because you're characterizing it as only one interview where he said it's personal. He's been in multiple interviews where he's been asked, and he can't name one. He can't name one verse in the book, and you're defending him and going into a pretzel, making it sound like, oh, well, it's really personal to him, and that's why he won't read one passage in the book. When was the last time Donald Trump was seen in church? When? When was the last time? How many times has Donald Trump been seen in church in the last 10 years, Al? Once? Twice?
He was here. When he was here in Vegas, he was in church. He was right here in church. I have the video.
How many times has Donald Trump been to church in the last 10 years that you can recall?
Right now that I can recall is probably one, and there's probably another instance.
I agree. One or two. He lies about the Bible. He can't recite one verse in the Bible in multiple interviews. He holds the Bible upside down for photo ops in front of a church where the owners of the church didn't want him there. He's a sinner more than anybody when it comes to adultery and liable sexual abuse. But yet, you defend him instead of saying, I think he's probably lying about the Bible.
Well,
he's not a religious man.
I don't defend him 100%. I don't defend him. I'm kind of like the way you are with the Bible. I'm glad that you said that you don't think it's a complete fairy tale. I really appreciate.
I think almost everything Donald Trump says is a fairy tale. I think when he says,
"Okay, that's a possibility."
That is a possibility.
There's a lot more truth to
agree.
that. There's a lot
Al,
more truth
all
to
I
that
want from you,
statement
we
than the
disagree
one about the whole Bible being a fairy tale.
We disagree on a lot, Al. But all I ask for is a little bit of intellectual honesty. For example.
I try to be. You know I'm honest.
Then why can't you? Okay,
hey, let me tell
Al,
you.
why can't you say?
I think he's better than.
Why,
I think he's better.
Al,
than
that's
Biden.
not the question.
I think he's
Why?
better than Kamala.
Why? I'm not going to get into that because we don't have the time. But Al, why can't you just say Donald Trump is lying and the Bible isn't his favorite book? He hasn't read the Bible and he can't recall one passage. Why can't you just admit that?
I don't think that's true. I think he knows I think the Bible is his favorite.
All right,
book.
Al. Well, you think the Bible is his favorite book? Okay. In his favorite book,
a good example of a person who follows it.
In his
favorite,
in his favorite book, he refuses to read one passage in the book. Okay, Al, I appreciate the call, my friend. I disagree with you completely, but I do appreciate you trying, and I hope you have a nice New Year's. I appreciate that. All right, we're going to take some more phone calls in about 22 hours. So tomorrow is going to be a very interesting show. Sorry for the people that are still waiting on hold. We'll get to you tomorrow. So we know this Indian immigration, the visa stuff. There are some Republicans that are upset about it. Guy by the name of Sid Harth, who's a staunch conservative Trumper, is now saying he's considering leaving the Republican Party because of the racism. So I'm going to ask him about that tomorrow. We also have Brian Slipbach joining us since it is New Year's Eve. People want to know, what should you tip when you go to a nightclub or a restaurant or a bellman or a valet? We're going to get into that conversation and have a little fun tomorrow. We'll take your phone calls on that as well. Please check out my website, pushingthelimits.live. If you support what we do here, syndicated, by the way, if you support what we do here, then please go to my website, pushingthelimits.live, where you can donate on the front page, and you could also go and buy stuff on there, books. I shouldn't say books, hats, T-shirts, you name it, we sell it. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We will see you tomorrow. Have a wonderful day.
Hey, everybody, are you struggling to find a pizza place that reminds you of Brooklyn? That true blue New York style pie? Well, worry no more. Stallone's Italian Eatery Pizza is a knockout. We're located at 467 East Silverado Ranch Boulevard, just off of Premium Road, half a mile east of South Point Casino, just minutes from the Las Vegas Strip. Come by and grab a slice of pie. Plus, check out our Brooklyn-inspired Italian